Hi, I'm Kevin O'Leary, and I'm about to tell you something that could save you from losing everything. Your money is on the line right now, and if you're considering real estate in certain parts of this country, you're walking straight into a financial buzzsaw. I've spent 4 decades building wealth in property markets. I've watched fortunes get made, and I've watched them vanish overnight. The difference between the winners and the losers always comes down to the same thing: raw data, numbers that don't care about your emotions or your dreams. And the numbers I'm staring at today are sending me a clear message. There are 5 locations in America where putting your capital into residential property right now would be one of the worst decisions you could possibly make. Before I reveal these danger zones, do me a favor. If you're serious about protecting your wealth, if you want to make intelligent choices with your hard-earned money, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists for one reason: financial survival. We're here to make sure you don't get destroyed in the marketplace while everyone's telling you not to worry. We deal in facts here, not fantasy. Subscribe, join this community, because what I'm about to share with you, most advisors don't have the courage to say out loud. Let me be crystal clear about something. A house is not an investment. I know your parents probably told you it was. Your agent is definitely telling you it is. But I'm giving you the unfiltered truth. A house is shelter. It's a consumption asset. Every single month it drains your bank account. Property taxes, insurance, repairs, the water heater, the air conditioner, the plumbing. It's a money-eating machine. Can property be a smart investment? Absolutely. I own real estate across multiple continents, but only when you buy in the right location at the right moment with the right economic foundations. And right now in these 5 places, those foundations are crumbling. They're not just weak, they're catastrophically unstable. Here's what most buyers completely miss. When you purchase a property, you're not just acquiring a building. You're buying into an entire economic system. You're buying into a tax framework. You're buying into regulatory policies. You're buying into employment markets. And critically, you're buying into population movement patterns. Where are people relocating to? Where are corporations setting up operations? Where is money flowing? These factors determine whether your property appreciates or becomes a financial albatross dragging you down. I've been in this game for 40 years. I've witnessed economic cycles that would terrify most people. I've seen buyers purchase at market peaks thinking they were brilliant, only to watch their wealth disappear. And I've seen disciplined investors wait patiently and buy when panic was everywhere. The difference isn't luck, it's discipline. It's the ability to analyze data and block out the noise. Why am I raising the alarm today? Because I'm witnessing something that genuinely concerns me. I'm seeing a massive split developing across this country. Some regions are becoming economic juggernauts, while others are turning into economic dead zones, and that gap is expanding rapidly. The winning regions are dominating. Lower tax burdens, pro-business environments, population surging inward, capital flooding in, explosive job growth. The losing regions are collapsing, excessive taxation, companies evacuating, shrinking populations, deteriorating infrastructure, and property markets headed for devastation. You might be thinking, Kevin, you're exaggerating. It can't be that severe. But it is. And I'm going to demonstrate it with hard numbers. Not feelings, not political talking points, not wishful thinking, just numbers. Because numbers reveal the truth. People manipulate the truth, politicians manipulate it, agents manipulate it, but numbers don't lie. Here's something crucial about property markets. They shift gradually until suddenly they don't. For years, a market can appear stable. Values stay flat or inch upward slightly, and everyone assumes everything's fine. But beneath the surface, the fundamentals are decaying. Companies are departing, young workers are leaving, the tax revenue base is eroding. Then one day, without warning, the market fractures. And when it breaks, it doesn't drop 10 or 20%. It can plummet 30, 40, even 50%. If you bought near the top, you're financially destroyed. Your equity evaporates. You're drowning in mortgage debt. You're imprisoned. You can't sell. You can't relocate. You're completely stuck. This is what I'm trying to protect you from. This is why I'm recording this message. I can see the fractures forming. I can identify which regions are about to collapse, and I refuse to let you be the person left holding the bag when everything crumbles. Let me explain my analysis framework for property markets. First, migration patterns. Are people arriving or departing? Negative migration is a massive warning sign because when residents leave, housing demand collapses. When demand collapses, values follow. Second, business dynamics. Are new companies forming or closing? Are major employers staying or relocating? Third, taxation climate. Are tax rates rising or falling? Taxes are a cost, and in real estate, costs are everything. Fourth, regulatory burden. How difficult is new construction? How hard is operating a business? Because excessive difficulty creates serious problems. Fifth, debt obligations. How much debt does the region carry? How much do local governments owe? That debt must be repaid, and it gets repaid through increased taxation, which accelerates the exodus. When I analyze these 5 elements, 5 specific regions emerge as complete disasters. Every single indicator is flashing danger. Buying property in these locations isn't investing, it's financial self-destruction. I'm going to walk through each region now. I'll show you precisely why they're on my avoid list. I'll present the data, the trends, and explain what's coming next. Because this transcends real estate. This is about America's economic future. We're witnessing a monumental redistribution of economic power. Regions that refuse to adapt, that keep implementing policies driving residents away, will become economic wastelands. But before I name the first region, understand this. This isn't political. I don't care about your party affiliation. I care about your financial well-being. I care whether you make intelligent decisions or catastrophic ones. Buying property in the wrong region right now is catastrophic. No debate. So, here's what I need. Set your emotions aside. Examine the facts objectively. Be honest with yourself about reality. The property market is indifferent to your feelings. It doesn't care about pleasant weather or family proximity. It only responds to supply and demand dynamics. And in these 5 regions right now, demand is dying. Are you prepared? Ready to see which regions are becoming financial quicksand? Good. Let's begin with number 1. The first region is facing a crushing tax environment. We're talking tax rates approaching 14% at higher income levels, plus property taxes, sales taxes, fuel taxes, and more. Taxes layered on top of taxes. What are residents receiving for this massive tax burden? Deteriorating infrastructure, struggling school systems in numerous districts, an out-of-control crisis situation, and escalating natural disaster risks year after year. The migration data tells a devastating story. This region has experienced negative domestic migration for years. More Americans are leaving than arriving. Who's departing? The middle class, the taxpayers, the workers, the business builders. They're relocating to lower tax states across the country. Why? They're exhausted from excessive taxation. They're tired of regulation strangling business activity. They're done paying $2 million for property worth $400,000 elsewhere. Some argue this region has major tech companies, entertainment industries, and great climate. True, but tech companies are establishing major operations in other growing cities. Entertainment production is shifting to states offering tax incentives. Perfect weather means nothing when you can't afford to live there. Let me tell you about property valuation. Location matters, but value matters more. Right now, property in this region is overvalued by every measurement metric. Price-to-income ratios are stratospheric. Price-to-rent ratios are extreme. Prices haven't crashed yet, only because inventory remains constrained, but that's changing. As more residents depart and more properties list, supply will overwhelm demand. When that happens, look out. What truly frightens me is the massive unfunded pension obligations. We're discussing hundreds of billions owed to retired government employees. How will they fund this? Higher taxes. What happens with tax increases? More exodus. It's a death spiral. And owning property in that spiral means going down with it. The second region is a complete fiscal catastrophe, not approaching disaster, already there. This area has some of America's highest property taxes. Some counties charge 2, 3, even 4% of property value annually just in property tax. Consider that. A $500,000 purchase could cost $15,000 yearly in property tax alone. That's insane. That exceeds many people's rent payments. What's happening here? The same pattern, mass exodus, shrinking population. It's not just residents leaving, businesses too. Major corporations have relocated headquarters out of this region to states that welcome them. Major companies, massive employers, billion-dollar hedge funds all departed. When billionaires flee your region, that's a clear signal. The primary city, the economic engine, is declining. Safety concerns are severe. Businesses are shutting down. Downtown areas are becoming abandoned in sections. State government keeps raising taxes, trying to fill budget gaps, which accelerates the departure cycle. Same death spiral, but potentially worse because this region lacks the climate or tech industry to soften the blow. Here's the reality about property here. Buying means buying into a broken system. You're betting this region will magically reverse course. I'm telling you, it won't happen without massive structural reforms. Those reforms aren't coming because politicians prioritize power preservation over problem solving. The third region is committing economic self-destruction. Taxation is outrageous. Regulations are suffocating. The business climate is openly hostile. I relocated my personal residence from this region years ago because I was tired of writing enormous checks to wasteful government. I'm not alone. Thousands of high-income earners have departed to zero-income tax states. Seeing the pattern, people follow favorable tax policy. Capital follows tax policy. Right now, capital is racing away from this region as fast as possible. The property market is artificially supported by international buyers and rent-controlled situations. That's unsustainable. As remote work becomes permanent and people realize they can live anywhere, why choose this region's prices and tax burden? They wouldn't, and they aren't. Here's the future. The tax base will keep shrinking as high earners leave. The government will raise taxes further, trying to compensate for lost revenue. That pushes more people out. Eventually, property values will crack, maybe not in the most elite urban areas. Those have always been unique. But in suburban areas, in outer regions, you'll see values decline. Buyers at peak prices will lose fortunes. The fourth region has America's absolute highest property taxes. Read that again. The highest. You can buy a modest property and pay $20,000, $30,000, even $40,000 annually in property taxes. That's not mortgage payment. That's pure tax. What's the return on that money? Not much. Schools are quality in some areas, terrible in others. Infrastructure is poor. The pension system is bankrupt. Politicians believe every problem's solution is more taxation. This region sits geographically between two major cities. It should be thriving from that position. Instead, it's dying. Why? People are exhausted from taxation. They watch neighbors relocate to adjacent states with far lower property taxes. They witness businesses closing or moving. The brutal truth about property values here, the only reason any value exists is proximity to the major financial center. People live here and commute there. But with remote work becoming permanent for many companies, commuting is irrelevant. If office presence isn't required 5 days weekly, why pay these prices and taxes? You wouldn't. That's why this region's property market will get hammered. I speak regularly with business owners operating here. Their message? They're planning exits, moving south, moving southwest, going anywhere but here. When businesses leave, jobs disappear. When jobs disappear, housing markets collapse. The fifth region perfectly illustrates what happens when terrible policy decisions compound over decades. It used to be prosperous. Major insurance companies, financial services, manufacturing sectors. But over time, government kept raising taxes, adding regulations, making business increasingly difficult. What happened? Businesses departed, major corporations, financial giants, countless investment firms relocated to zero-income tax states. This region has some of the country's most expensive property, especially in wealthy counties. The problem? That property is expensive because wealthy residents from nearby cities used to live here for tax advantages. But with remote work, proximity to major cities is unnecessary. You can live in zero-income tax states instead. Why stay here paying high property and income taxes while enduring 6-month winters? You wouldn't. People aren't. This region's population has stagnated or declined for years. Young graduates leave immediately because employment opportunities don't exist. Wealthy retirees depart to avoid taxation. What remains is a shrinking tax base supporting massive government and unfunded obligations. What terrifies me about property values here, prices remain elevated in many areas because inventory is constrained. Current owners don't want to sell at losses, so they're holding. That can't continue forever. Eventually, these homeowners will realize nobody wants to purchase overpriced property in a declining region. When they all attempt selling simultaneously, the market will collapse. Let me clarify something. I'm not predicting these regions will cease existing. I'm not saying everyone should immediately evacuate. What I'm saying is this: if you're considering property investment, if you're deciding where to place capital for 10 or 20 years, these 5 regions are terrible choices. Every trend works against you. The fundamentals oppose you. The numbers oppose you. I always say the numbers don't lie. Right now, numbers in these 5 regions are screaming warnings. So what's the alternative? Where should you invest? That's what I'll explain next. You're probably asking, Kevin, if these 5 regions are disasters, where should money go? Which regions actually deserve investment? That's the right question because identifying problems is easy. Finding solutions is challenging. I'll give you the decision framework. Let me explain what I seek when analyzing property markets. Positive migration. I want people moving in, not out. Businesses relocating to the region, not fleeing. A business-friendly tax structure. Notice I didn't say zero taxes. I said business-friendly because taxation funds infrastructure, education, and safety, but it must be reasonable. State government operating within its means without massive unfunded liabilities becoming future tax explosions. Job creation. Real private sector jobs producing actual value, not just government positions. Viewing the country through this framework, several regions emerge, growing southern and southwestern states, regions currently winning because they're doing the opposite of the 5 struggling regions. Low or zero income taxation, reasonable regulations, attracting businesses aggressively, population surging inward. Does this mean immediately purchasing property in these hot markets? Not necessarily, because timing matters in real estate. Right now, because everyone recognizes these regions are booming, prices have increased significantly. Some markets have risen too far too fast. You need caution, you need research, you need to examine specific markets, neighborhoods, individual properties. Here's the difference. Buying in a growing region, even slightly overpaying, puts demographic trends on your side, economic expansion on your side, migration patterns supporting you. Over time, strong fundamentals compensate. But buying in a declining region, even getting a bargain price, means fighting against powerful opposing forces. Fighting those forces is exhausting and expensive. Example time. Suppose you buy property in a booming Texas city for $600,000, overpaying by $50,000 because the market's hot. Not ideal, but that city is exploding with growth. Companies relocating there. Young professionals moving there. Strong employment market. In 5 or 10 years, that $50,000 overpayment becomes irrelevant because market growth absorbs it. Now suppose you buy property in a declining area for $400,000, getting an excellent deal because sellers were desperate. You feel smart, but in 5 or 10 years, that property might be worth $350,000 because the area is contracting, weak economy, population exodus. You got a great deal on a terrible investment. This is what most people miss about real estate. Price is what you pay. Value is what you receive. Value is determined by fundamentals, not emotions. I don't care about neighborhood nostalgia or childhood memories. Markets are indifferent to feelings. Markets only respond to supply and demand. Now let's discuss interest rates. Many people are panicking about rates. They're asking, Kevin, rates are higher than in years. Should I wait? Here's my answer. Interest rates matter, but they're not everything. Sometimes higher rates create opportunities by scaring away other buyers. When everyone's scared, that's when deals appear. The key remains buying in the right location. High interest rates on property in a growing market beats low rates on property in a dying market. With the growing market, you can refinance later when rates drop. With the dying market, you're trapped with a depreciating asset regardless of interest rates. I've invested in real estate for 40 years. I've seen rates at 3% and 18%. My learning, rates matter less than location. Always, without exception. Quality property in strong markets generates returns at virtually any interest rate. Poor property in weak markets loses money even at zero interest rates. Here's my guidance. If you're considering property purchase, stop viewing it as just shelter and start treating it as a business decision, because that's exactly what it is. You're committing hundreds of thousands in capital. You're assuming debt. You're accepting risk. This is business. Treat it accordingly. Do thorough research. Examine migration data, analyze business climate, study tax structures, investigate employment markets, review fiscal health, consider safety statistics, evaluate education quality, assess infrastructure condition, then make fact-based decisions, not emotional ones. The market punishes emotional decisions every single time. Some of you are thinking, but Kevin, I already own property in one of those 5 regions. What now? That's challenging because selling property is expensive. Realtor commissions, closing costs, moving expenses, and you might be underwater if you bought recently. I'm not saying panic and sell immediately. I am saying develop a plan. If you're young and mobile, without deep roots anchoring you, seriously consider relocating. Seek opportunities in growing regions. Find employment in expanding markets because your greatest asset isn't your house, it's your income earning ability. You want to be where economic opportunity is expanding, not contracting. If you're older, approaching retirement with family connections making relocation difficult, then be realistic about property value. Don't assume appreciation. Don't assume huge sale profits. Plan for the possibility of decreased value when selling time arrives. Ensure retirement planning doesn't depend on home equity that might not materialize. If you're a landlord owning rentals in these regions, monitor your numbers obsessively. The moment cash flow turns negative, the moment the property stops generating income, exit. Don't hold on hoping for turnarounds. In declining markets, hope isn't strategy. Hope is how you lose everything. Understand this. The American economy is experiencing massive transformation. We're witnessing economic power shifting from established regions to emerging ones. This isn't temporary fluctuation. This is fundamental restructuring unfolding over decades. Property markets reflect this shift. Regions embracing market principles, maintaining low taxation, welcoming business, treating residents like valued customers instead of captive subjects, those regions will prosper. Regions continuing down paths of excessive taxation, burdensome regulations, and business hostility will decline. It's that straightforward. You have a choice. Ignore warning signs. Pretend everything's fine. Buy property in struggling regions, hoping for magical turnarounds. Or examine data. Accept reality. Make intelligent decisions, protecting your wealth and positioning you for success. I've achieved considerable success. Why? Not because I'm smarter than everyone, because I'm willing to face uncomfortable truths. I'm willing to change positions when facts change. I'm willing to oppose crowds when crowds are wrong. Right now, the crowd is wrong about real estate in these 5 regions. I need you to do something. If this message opened your eyes, if it changed your thinking about investment locations, hit that like button now. Share this with everyone you know considering real estate purchases, because this information could save them from catastrophic financial mistakes. Subscribe to this channel. This is where we deliver financial truth. We don't sugarcoat reality. We provide information enabling smart decisions. You know what separates successful from unsuccessful people? Successful people take action. They don't just consume information, they apply it. Here's your action plan. Take paper right now. Write down your target property location. Write the 5 factors I mentioned: migration, business climate, taxation, regulations, fiscal health. Then research those factors for your target market. Spend hours examining data. Be honest about your findings. If data indicates you're about to make a mistake, have courage to change direction. Don't let ego interfere. Don't let sunk costs trap you. Don't let others' expectations control your decisions. This is your money, your future, your family's security to protect. Final thought. The property market is merciless. It's indifferent to your dreams and plans. It only respects fundamentals. Right now, fundamentals in these 5 struggling regions are broken. You can accept that or ignore it. but markets will behave according to fundamentals regardless of your beliefs. I've provided the information, I've shown warning signs. Now you must decide what to do with it. Will you be the person looking back in 5 years saying, I wish I'd listened? Or will you be saying, I'm grateful I paid attention and made intelligent decisions? The choice is yours. But remember, in business and life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. If you negotiate with a dying property market, you'll lose. Don't be that person. Be smarter. Be better. Protect your money. Thank you for watching. Now go make intelligent decisions. Your future self will thank you.